AMA, which is our first Ask Me Anything. We have got Michael Smart from the Busselton Chamber here. Hey, Michael, how are you?
Hey, guys.
We've got Mark from RSM, which will be discussing stimulus packaging today.
Hello, guys.
And we've got Karen from Wellness Unwrapped.
Hi, looking forward.
Awesome. So during this live broadcast, if you guys have any questions, chuck it in the comments below and we'll get to them as soon as we can. But we're going to start with Mark talking about our stimulus packages that might be available for businesses in the Southwest. Over to you, Mark.
Oh, yes, big announcements over the weekend and the previous week. There, stimulus packages. There's a couple of sections, one for businesses and one for job seekers. People, obviously, there's a lot of people losing their jobs at the moment, just with businesses having to shut their doors and shut down. The main thing there is a coronavirus supplement that the government is giving a special payment of $550 per fortnight for the next 6 months to eligible income support recipients, whether job seeker payment, youth allowance, parenting, if you're eligible for parenting payment, farmhouse allowance, and any other special, some other special benefits there. Then they're effectively doubling your payment to $550 per fortnight. They're going to be rolling out a $750 payment to eligible people in next month in April.
Mm-hmm. And how would you apply for that? Do you have to apply for it?
Yes, definitely have to apply for that, and that's through applied through Centrelink, and they're having issues at the moment to be able to do that. People are probably aware there's been huge lines outside of Centrelink offices, and their websites crashed and that. But the federal government they're trying to catch up. Yeah, they're employing. I think last time I heard last night, they were employing another 5,000 people to start working in their call centres and in the offices to be able to help get through the backlog of people.
Yeah.
There. So
I've heard it. Yeah.
So that's an interesting one for me. Maybe I'll just jump in there and one. And I don't know where the stimulus package is. Can you hear? It sounds like you're still talking.
No, I'm listening. Right? I'm listening. There is a bit of a lag. Yeah.
There's a lag. Gotcha. Okay. I don't know how, and I was talking to the regional chambers and offering this up, who were having a discussion with the Premier today. The problem I see with that approach is a little bit that businesses have no other choice, right? They're kind of having to lay off their casual workers because they can't afford as much as they would love to hold on to their staff. Now, the twofold thing is I lose the staff who I've just trained up and who is part of my team. I've only kept them on casual. That's no disrespect or anything. It's just the way that relationship is working. Then I kick them out over to Centrelink. Now I've got to try to hire them back, or I have to, after we're into recovery mode, hiring back this skill set and retraining and all of those things are going to have to happen. Is there any sort of word that the government might look at something like pay the company that money so that we can basically do something like what Google did or what the German government did, where we can still offer and pay our staff, but they're just on kind of like 0% contracts, if you know what I mean. And then they stay kind of employed technically by us, but they're just being paid via sort of the money coming in from the government who pay the businesses who then pay their staff so that they can keep them on this kind of sick leave almost. And then we don't end up pouring everybody out onto a troubled Centrelink system, which is never going to be able to process all of these payments slowly enough, fast enough. And then we don't have to have this try to onboard all these new job seekers back. They kind of effectively still have their job. They're just getting paid sick leave through the government paying the company, if you know what I mean.
That's all right.
Oh, Mark's dropped
Back
out.
in.
Back in, yeah, definitely another suggestion.
Returned.
The government hasn't indicated that at this stage, but as they've talked about it, they were quick to announce tranche 1, and then less than a week later they announced tranche 2, and the Prime Minister was adamant that there's going to be tranche 3 and tranche 4. So I think I think they're learning as they're going as well. They're going to make mistakes, and possibly this is one of the mistakes that they've made, and they may have to change it to businesses and paying businesses like you suggested. Similar to what they have done for parental leave in the past. Yeah.
Exactly.
So just a couple of comments coming in, guys. So we've got Susie that said that she really likes that idea, Michael, so that's great. And then we've got
I think that's something that obviously just as more and more, I'm sure there's more and more out there. We just need to probably it's something that the chamber can do, banding together with our members so that we are a stronger voice, and make that almost as something that we could go up to at least the state treasurer and maybe say, instead of directing the funds this way into the Centrelink or social services, direct them into the small businesses. That actually keeps all of the other payments going, right? We would still pay as you go tax. We would still have the social benefits being paid out as a normal payroll. Small business. I don't know, Mark, how, I don't want to keep on that a little bit, but because I also want the information to go out during this AMA rather than this being an idea session of how people can access and what they should do right now. That's maybe the important.
Yeah, definitely got to register with Centrelink, and you need a customer reference number initially, and then you've either got to call them or go online to get that customer reference number. So it's a matter of keep trying. Effectively, you just got to be patient. Expect a wait long time, and keep trying.
Yeah.
A quick question that just came through. I don't know if you can see that, Mark, from Susan about sole traders. There been anything mentioned there?
Yes, sole traders. If they've got if they can show a reduction in their incomes as well, then they are eligible to be able to go down that route as well.
That's fantastic.
Gotcha.
So we've got a couple of comments. Jody Richard is admiring your beard, Mark, so that's great.
Thanks, Jody.
But I think the key takeaway from that for me is to get onto Centrelink, find out your options, see what stimulant packages are available, and be patient.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which we can understand is a frustrating customer journey, and that's my point. There's just it's not really a great game plan. If you're a tenant who's paying rent because you're a casual worker, the relief not being handed down yet from your landlord, the landlord's also not sure what's happening. Is there any sort of discussion around those sorts of relief efforts as well?
As I know, there's certainly a lot of questions being put to the federal government and the state governments there, and their response last I heard was, we're looking at it, but we've got to be able to work. It's a mixture. There's a couple of things there that the tenants.
I've lost Mark.
I think his audio went to the phone call that just happened.
And then they've got to work with that, and then they've got to work with lending institutions, because that affects them as well up the line, whether if landlords are borrowing and those sort of things. So they've got to get tenants, landlords, financial institutions all working to get a solution that works for everybody.
Yeah, great. And Jody just mentioned that they're releasing a form tomorrow of an intention to claim which will be able to be filed online. Is that for small businesses, Jody, or for sole traders, or is that just a blanket for everyone? Well, she might answer that in the comments, but yeah, that's really good advice, Mark.
Yeah.
So we've got Jody's asked the question. There are many people needing to use IT programs and tools that they have never used before. How can we address the need to upskill? I mean, Michael, you could probably talk about a couple of tools that they can use, but just quickly, I want to mention that reach out to the local community, because I think there's going to be a lot of, I mean, first and foremost, there's going to be a lot of IT professionals. There's going to be a lot of people that are pivoting their services and will probably offer that service for a fairly good price at the moment. So I'd first chuck it out to the community and see if anyone can come around and assist you in person regarding upskilling your IT skills and using those online tools. But failing that, there is a couple of good reputable sources you can go to upskill, and it's something you could probably do for some of your staff as well, just to pivot their roles and repurpose their positions as well a little bit during this time. So one is LinkedIn Learning, which is formerly lynda.com. That is created by industry professionals. They do short courses on just about everything, and I believe that they're a subscription model. So you pay per month. They do a 30-day free trial, but you pay per month, and they will have courses from copywriting to using Microsoft Word, to using Microsoft Excel, to using Google Suite. They have absolutely everything on there, and it's an easy step-by-step module. And they have little snippet courses, or they have courses in whole if you want to upskill, say, your receptionist to manage your social media. So that, I think, is going to be really beneficial for small to medium enterprises, is to say, okay, we have, it could be a food and beverage industry, a wait staff might be repurposed to the business's social media manager and delivery person. They can jump onto LinkedIn or Lynda. They can do a social media management course, and then their position can be repurposed, and we can keep that person employed. So I think that's going to be a really good resource for people. And the other resource is udemy.com, udemy.com. So I'll chuck them in the comments below. But I think it's really important that before we look at releasing our staff, that we look at where we can repurpose these staff if we're pivoting our service offering as well. Because there's still consumers out there that are going to have the same problems and new problems that we, as I believe, small to medium businesses in the Southwest need to be providing solutions for. So while the business landscape may have changed slightly, we still, as business owners, need to just take a step back, I believe, take a breath, and then see what problems we have out there that we can provide solutions for. But I'll chuck those training sites in the comments now below.
Yeah, that's good, because Jody's reaching out for that. And also just quickly catching up there with Brian, who's helpfully posted that the this intention to claim form that Jody was mentioning is available now on the MyGov website. So I'm not sure if you need to do up some linking there. I'm aware that through MyGov you do need to link more services. I'm not sure how quickly that's going, but hopefully something like that. And that's obviously a measure to help the government to be able to even manage when and how much how much is going to be available. But like Matt said, there's no guarantee on when things are going to be processed. So in the interim, probably professional development is a good thing for mental health. Maybe we can get a comment from Karen on that presently. There are some good tools to use, and I think people will be scrambling to try out many different tools. So I can give a hint about which tools I would use, but I think it would be interesting to get a little bit of insight in terms of health, from the health perspective, as we all go into this sort of isolation. Hopefully Karen comes back, because I think although we're all sort of now turning to tech, I don't think, or we're in the Southwest, we're in an extremely lucky position that we can still venture out into our yards, still do exercise, and not be really confined right here in our homes. Hopefully, we can get something from Karen when she joins us there. But my tip there would be obviously to still get up and kind of have your routine still going. So still get your coffee in the morning, maybe having something like an online call with your team just for 5 minutes, because the tendency will be to just get distracted. That's the worst thing about working online like this, is you just get distracted by everything. And I mean, if email isn't bad enough that people can put stuff on your to-do list with an email, you just wait and see all of these messages and notifications come up. The novelty of that is going to wear off very fast for those companies who have not already had access to or experiences of working online right now in their companies. So I would be interested to hear what Karen has to say about that, as we did want to hear that from medical or from a wellness perspective as well. Any word there from Karen, Matt, about her rejoining that?
I just resent her the link. I might just give her a quick call.
That's a good idea. I love that. I love how, and this is the thing, right? Tech is always great until it doesn't work. So I'll just rattle off a couple of tools that we were talking about. Yesterday, we did an online workshop at the chamber, and there we were able to collaborate with actually a lot of different people from different industries, and I believe that you can still get a lot of interaction and engagement with people using online tools like an online whiteboard. There's a free one that comes with your Google account that's called a Jamboard. And with that, you can basically start doing brainstorming sessions and things like that with Post-its. My favorite one, though, is called Miro, Miro, and Matt can throw this in the links later. And Miro is great for mapping out really anything in terms of maybe a user journey flow. It might map out, it might also map out things or help you brainstorm and allow your team members to collaborate and still vote. So Miro.com is that tool, and I think that that's a great way to collaborate with people. The other thing I would recommend is a basic project management tool, and that's called Basecamp. Basecamp is something that's a little bit slimmed down, so you don't spend your whole time just trying to maintain software, that you can still give to-do lists and things like this in an easy way. But I think it's great for us to hear which tools, and maybe we can provide these in the show notes or in the links below after this, because I think we're only scheduled for half an hour. I think we could probably talk about this for a long time longer. I want to make sure that as we're getting a bit more information from Brian, thanks so much for getting the extra information to us, that we'll be able to about the Centrelink payment. So hopefully everyone can see that in the notes from Brian about how that's going to work. Yeah, and
Karen's just on her way back, guys, so keen to hear what she thinks from the health perspective.
Get from the health perspective as well. Yeah, which would be interesting. And I don't know what it's like for your team, Matt. Is remote a lot of it, isn't it?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of our team that do work from home anyway, and the tools that you have mentioned are fantastic for collaborating with. But I think, like we spoke about before as well, having those check-in calls with your team in the morning and at night, and keeping them accountable, but also keeping the morale up and making sure that what they're working on is what they're working on.
It was one of the big topics that came out of yesterday's session, wasn't it? How do we keep positivity going up with our workforce? We're asking them to maybe check in online. I'd say lower the expectations in general. Everybody's in the same boat. And now, as kids as well are being asked to be, to stay at home, there's just can't be the same expectations, and surely isn't. I don't know how it is for you at Mark. I mean, you work for a massive accounting firm. Is the workload for you, is the expectation still up there, or is it more, or how is it for you right now?
For me personally, it's the expectations are very similar. Very similar. They understand there's going to be the disruptions and those sort of things, but it's fortunately with RSM they've always been quite flexible. So being able to fit in with my family life and that sort of thing, I've been able to work around school hours and at nights after the kids go to bed or early morning and those sort of things where it suited me. So I think certainly my direct boss, their point of view is just try different things and see what works best for you in your situation, and do that. And then Australia wide, the firm is moving to all remote. So definitely there's that balance, isn't it, of recognizing that there's the disruption, but also to be able to keep trading and keep working. Well, we've still got to meet and get targets and get work done and that sort of thing. So just both ways, I think.
Yeah,
that's great. And Russell, who's one of our supporters at the Chamber, has just given us some great input as well about maintaining a routine and the importance of that. Then, as you say, it's the jumbling around and fitting around family life is definitely important, but maybe being even stricter. And I'd like to think that actually this is something that changes out of this whole, it's a worldwide pandemic, so we're all in it, that maybe there's just a few mindset and value resets happening, and our approach to work and our work-life balance has been really pushing the productivity, and we almost can't switch off. And I like that message from Russell Barton, is you still need to get up and go to work, get up, have your coffee, whatever the morning routine is, maybe do some exercise first, it's suggesting, and then do a chunk of work. There's a great book, and I've worked a lot with a Google designer called Jake Knapp, and his recent book is called Make Time. And in there are a bunch of different tactics actually about how you could structure your day or set a better routine for yourself, so that when you are sitting down to work, you're not then scrambling and wondering, okay, there's a million things to be doing, I'll just do the thing that pops up in front of me first, right? Which is usually the way that people do it. But I like to use his list style, actually. I might be able to show it on camera. It's called the burner list. I don't know where my camera is. So basically I get an A4 or even a post-it sheet like this. And on the left side is a way that a chef works, right? You have a front burner and you have a back burner, the way that a chef would work. And then you have a kitchen sink. And the idea is that you kind of have one main thing that you're working on at any time, and that goes in the front burner. Like you might be doing, the main part of the meal might be the tofu or the asparagus, and the other part of what you're cooking might be the other vegetables or the sauce. And that you just kind of have to work on that as well, otherwise the whole meal is not complete, right? And then those are the two things that you should be focusing on at any given time. But then you obviously have these other little tasks, and they just go in the kitchen sink. And that's kind of something where you could just look at that list. I do it on a Post-it pretty much every morning, and that keeps me focused every morning. And then I know I'm going to do an hour and a half block of work, concentrate on those top two things, maybe have some lunch, come back, get some of the little tasks done, and then go back to my front and back burners to make sure that the whole meal is coming together, that I'm really making sure that the actions that I'm doing are contributing to maybe a larger goal that we've set for the week, or maybe for the month, or any other strategic goals that we're doing.
I think, I really like that tool. I think it's great, and I think what Brendan Birch has said as well is, if you get that list done, concentrate on the first hour and a half of your day. Do not open emails. Do not open messages. Put your phone away. And for the first hour and a half, get some real work done, because you're going to feel like you have moved the needle. Otherwise, you can get caught, I feel, in a reactive mode. And Brendan Bircher talks about it a lot, is just reacting to emails, and it gets to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you realize you haven't actually done anything.
That's it. And how do you think, now that you're back, Karen, we've been talking about the importance of routine and almost creating a go-to-work scenario for yourself, but then being able to balance that within the fact that you're working from home. From the wellness perspective, what sort of challenges do you think are the ones that we'd need to pay particular attention to before we all go slightly insane looking at our screen? Hopefully, it's quite a janky. So this will happen, right? This is conference calls, like.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
Oh, good. We can hear you. We can hear you, Karen. It's just slightly slower.
For sure, I think one of the first things is to okay. Firstly, I think having a dedicated workspace so that everybody in the house of and respects, because you be sharing it with kids. About
it's
routine and just having
I guess everybody else might be having a similar trouble.
Yeah, can't
hearing you, Karen.
Actually covering the sort of ground. Work day as you would if you're going to the office.
We're missing
sharing,
a lot.
Wearing gear, for the workspace. I'm just.
I think it sounds good for her, but I think
work.
No, we can't.
It's a little bit too broken, Karen. So we might just have to have your input as well after in the comments as well, because we have a few minutes left. One thing I think that's interesting and worth mentioning is we are all in this position where we're working with information. It would be worth and would be great to hear, for example, from the agriculture industry. There might be coming up to things that there are times to maybe harvest. There could actually be work again that's maybe out in in wineries or out in the agriculture sector, and also with the building and construction. Even just next door to us, folks still went ahead and did a whole new landscape in 3 days. So those guys were lucky because those projects went ahead, obviously. And we'll probably slowly start to see that slow down. But it would be interesting as well for those folks who don't do information work. Have you guys had any, or Mark as well, have you had any thoughts, or Matt, with your customers?
Grain industry, they're going to need to be putting crops in. So tractor drivers and that side of things. Definitely, they're going to be looking for workers. Any of those sort of things. So definitely opportunity in agribusiness side of things.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Mark. I think we've spoken to a few people that there's definitely still opportunity out there for that industry.
And I mean, we'll be looking at interesting ways, I think, for bringing different. You have to think about the end-to-end customer experience with things like this as well, and that's going to be great for collaboration between small businesses, big businesses as well, obviously as well. Like looking at, and I think that's a nice exercise for folks if you're looking at what you might be facing. In terms of needing your business to adapt. I think a great exercise, and you'll notice I'm just always with a Post-it and pen, but I think it's an interesting exercise for you to do, to essentially block out each step that your customer, know that that's just 4 steps on a page, but what does your customer do to actually get to you? So let's say you are here, like what steps are they doing? Are they going to Google first, and then they go to a blog page, then they get to your service, then they buy, and what happens? The delivery. Like if you're just mapping this out for yourself in a very simple, sometimes 6 steps is even enough. You don't have to go into all detail. But if you're doing that customer journey map, you'll also see then what other companies are involved in my customer's experience. And maybe me as a business, I can go out there and start to, talk about the discussions of collaborating. So if we have a coffee vendor and we have a grocery store, how can these things go together? People are only going to go out now at the moment to go and get their groceries. Now it's probably a nice to have, and it's a luxury to get your morning coffee. But getting a coffee grinder and something like that, that could be all boxed up, and maybe then a delivery driver can bring that around. So if those 3 or 4 businesses would come together, then we might actually see some innovation and innovative short-term thinking. I think that experimenting with short-term sort of ideas will maybe give you a few long-term, more sustainable almost revenue streams, but it is something, and we just got a comment through on the chamber about small businesses. That might be something as well for Mark to chat about. That's right, clearing all unnecessary overheads, is probably a good housekeeping exercise right now. There's some tips that you could give around managing cash flow, and maybe what are the essentials to keep there, Mark?
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I think we've got to, you've first got to start, you've got to review and re-review all your budgets that you've got at the moment, and reforecast regularly, and going to be preparing based on assumptions and that sort of thing, what you think is going to be happening and what's happening now, and it's just going to be a continuous adjustment as you go along. Going to be looking at every single cost, every line item, every cost that you spend.
But it is interesting just chatting with Matthew Wright, who's the president here at the Chamber in the Elders Insurance Company. Now, while epidemics probably fall in the category of, a war or a natural disaster, there are a lot of insurance policies just around the world are not going to cover this. But the insurance companies are also looking like the banks at maybe holding off on premium payments for the next 6 months. As the first knee-jerk reaction is to go through and start slashing and not paying for these things because you're not sure if you need it. Would there be some sort of items in your cash flow doc that you would say, look, do reach out to your service provider there to see before you just start annexing all of these costs?
Yeah, definitely. Have all your main, depending on each business. Each business is different, but your main costs of the business, each of those suppliers, and that you're going to have to be just opening the conversation and having a talk with them and seeing what they can do and what you can do, and having the dialogue always open, just to be able to see what you both can do moving forward now that there's a huge change.
And is there just to talk into that about the costs and the changing our service offerings and that sort of stuff into the future, because we will come out of this on the other end. I don't think it's important that we don't take an apocalyptic approach to the business. So, Mark, do you have any advice around those sort of businesses that just to get through and come out the other side of where they might be in 12 months, of anything they can do cash flow wise, or any expenses that can be put on hold for 6 months?
Yeah, well, definitely. Banks are flagging that their home loans and business loans and those sort of things. They're looking at having giving you 3 and 6 months off of your repayments, deferring and charging less interest. And the federal government stimulus package is there's a couple things in there that they're doing as well. One of them is low 0.25% interest rate for loans for small businesses. Then they're also guaranteeing 50% of loans. The 50% of the loan is guaranteed government-backed loan to be able to allow banks to lend to small businesses. So yeah, definitely financing and banking and that side of things. Definitely get in touch with your financiers and have conversations with them and seeing what they can do.
Yeah, and I think a lot that's coming out of this conversation as well with us is that if we are a small business, let's step back, take a breath, have a look at if we do have staff, if we can repurpose that staff, if we can upskill those staff, if we can change what they're doing in the business, have a look at our customers and where we're serving, and if there's any new problems that are serving, have that conversation with our financial institutions, with our accountants, and then have a look at where we are as a business, rather than having these knee-jerk reactions of just closing our doors straight away. There might be other options out there for small business in the area. What do you guys think about that?
For me, I think that's a great and one way that I've often helped a lot of companies derive new income streams is also look at the waste products that you create whenever you're offering your products and services, because you can repackage and reassemble a lot of the waste. Because right now, for example, if we just took something like the local restaurant, actually, Spice Odyssey or Hidden Kitchen, offering, instead of obviously still having a wealth of ingredients and produce there, something like repackaging things, or being able to package things and deliver them as frozen meals. That's now a new product that he can start selling, rather than Satish can start selling, rather than just thinking, oh, this is waste now. So that's a very literal example of that. But waste for me in a process is if you're creating, for example, spreadsheets, or you're creating PowerPoint presentations, you're creating stuff internally for your business. That might be interesting stuff for your customers to actually know, and you can almost give away your knowledge, and you could repurpose that as some sort of online resource or some sort of online tool even if you're not deriving income at this point, I think it's important that businesses do keep in touch with their customers, because you're going to need to reactivate them. The work that you don't put in now in keeping them engaged and keeping them in touch with what you are offering is going to be work that you're going to have to redo in the not too distant future in 2 or 3 times, is to recapture that audience. So it does make sense to, at the very least, communicate with your customers and let them know what you're doing and be authentic about that. And that from that, you're moving yourself and your organization, you're making a move. And with every move, that changes the perspective of all different opportunities that are going to be possible as things do change really quickly. So there could be a lot of FOMO going to be happening.
There's a great comment there.
Yeah, look, Wise Winery producing hand sanitizer, right? Another way of using all of the processes and the resources they have in terms of producing, liquid, right? They can now repurpose that, and they're making a hand sanitizer, which is obviously widely appreciated in the community. So do look at the other wastes and your production processes, and now's the time to kind of experiment and have a failure that no one's, do it on a small amount, and make sure that you are communicating that with your customers. You can do that via social media, and you don't need a huge campaign and things like that, and don't be spending like money on ads and things, you know, is not the time for it. The time is to kind of like have a dialogue with your customers as well.
Yeah, I think there's a really good opportunity right now as well to build those relationships with our customers, like you were saying. And it could be as simple as sitting down and saying to yourself, what do my customers need right now, and how can I provide it with what I have, rather than bringing in new processes, new ad campaigns, and new materials.
And I think that's also a point where there's so much online now. Creating new stuff right now is going to add to the noise and add to the confusion, whereas working with what we have is probably a faster way than everybody scrambling to adapt to a new platform or a new, like Google exists. We know where your business is. You know, make sure you're on Facebook, make sure you're on LinkedIn. We don't necessarily need to be creating more noise for something that's going to be kind of a short impact. You know, it's not sustainable. And it's not something that's going to be last out of this. So use the tools and things that you have, just repurpose them, reignite them, have a look, log into the back end of your website. I know I need to do that for the chamber for a start. You know, there are things like that have just been, you're not getting around to those things because another project goes and goes and goes. And I think that that's a symptomatic of society, right? It's just all too throwaway. We start a new project. We love new shiny things. We jump in, we have a new verb for that. And if you would have a graph, I wish I had a whiteboard, but if you'd have a verb for the excitement in a new project, right? I always see it. You know, you kind of start here and then everybody gets really excited about the idea and it goes, oh, I'm drawing the wrong way, so I can't do this upside down. And you go up here and then after a little while, actually people's interest just starts to wane, right? And it just ends up farting out somewhere out here, you know? And then the new project just doesn't have any legs and no sustainability. So, yeah.
Russell just jumping in, saying Russell just asked, do we have any case studies of clients Australia-wide who are doing it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Right now, I don't have customers on this side of the pond who are doing really well, but I know that, for example, companies in Europe or maybe in America who have prior to this already looked at, you know, digitizing some of their course offerings and things like that. That could also, thanks, Marinda. They are kind of a little bit future-proof in this. For example, someone like Russell, who's got like years and years of wealth of experience in terms of taking photos and what looks good and what works. You know, having a simple online course or even holding these AMAs right now and getting the audience. The idea is to keep the audience there. And you can obviously definitely charge for things like that, little workshops using Eventbrite. I think that they're the sorts of future-proofed companies. I'm making toy. No, but that's a good one, Jody, because actually, you know, if we did get to press paper and press bark again, some folks who have those old machines, for example, you know, the antique shop down the road in Busso, I'd probably find one of those old sewing machines or old printing presses, paper presses, so that I could start making. It is a little bit, with rather than starting new things, you look at what you've got and start working with that. And Russell, it's a great question about case studies of Aussie clients doing well. I definitely like to look that up myself. I've been also snowed under, but would try to get some case studies out for folks doing really well there.
Are you talking about industries or different areas of the economy that would be doing well? Is that what Russell's getting at there?
Yeah, it could be interesting. Like he mentions, pivoting, you know, examples of companies who have pivoted and recently. It might be too early to tell right now what pivot has worked. That's why I mentioned things like those companies. For example, personal trainer is a classic good one, right? You have a personal training, you have a gym, people are coming to you every day. Worked on those sorts of projects. It just made sense then that PT kind of builds up their own personal brand and maybe has a YouTube following, for example, and starts to get subscribers in to their class, they can still do things like that without getting or having to buy too many new tools or anything like that. So there's definitely hack ways to do it, so that people can still offer, counselors, another one, and the medical profession. Just here in Busselton, the Broadwater guys, I don't know if you guys saw ABC last night, but the Broadwater Medical Centre as well, they're using GP Consults, which is an Australian-based medical. You can put that link in there, gpconsults.com.au. And they've just come at the right time, right, where doctors are going to be doing these kind of remote checkups, and the passenger or the patient, will drive to the car park, and the doctor can call them there. And if they do need to do any kind of physical examination, then they can maybe do that because the problem is they just don't have enough personal protection right now, so they don't want to have the close contact with the doctors. GP consults, they're that industry, like the medical and consulting, let's say, is probably we'll see that shifting online. I think it's great that a service like Netflix has reduced the bandwidth, so they're not streaming HD content anymore, just so we can free up some bandwidth, so that if I needed to talk to Karen, or if I needed to talk to my doctor, I needed to talk to my counselor, those opportunities are still available.
Yeah, I think it's great. And there's a company in the US. We are a bit over time, but that's okay.
We should wrap it up. Yeah.
But there is a company over in the US called ResApp who is backed by Bill Gates, and they developed this app that you can cough into, and it sends it straight to the GP. Because of the vocal cords from the cough, it analyzes the seriousness of the throat infection or the chest infection. So there's some good innovation going on in there as well.
I'd just put a word of warning out.
Oh, absolutely.
Those people start just coughing into their phone.
Yeah.
Don't know, COVID. I mean, you were also seeing an influx of, I don't know, the testing, they're saying, is about 30% accuracy from, let's say, new testing units that are coming out of China. For self-testing, we're going to see an influx of those on the market. So I would put that just adds to the frenzy we're all going through. I think the better thing would be to look after your own health. It's such a shame that we don't have Karen on the call right now. Just looking here about nachos, what's going on here?
Yes,
there's lockdown from big cafes serve kind who want to eat more than rice and beans. Yeah, exactly. Dunsey, clientele, home deliver, lockdown, laxa. Great, no more nachos. Right, so this is it, right? Just reaching out on these platforms, right? We've got folks in Dunsborough who it is like a ghost town down in town, and lockdown laksa and no mates nacho. So that's the current advert from Macca's downtown, and that's it, right? For pickups on doorsteps, I think we're going to start seeing that from places
online ordering and delivering will crank up again. Coles and Woolworths had to stop for a bit, but they're going to, once they've got their systems organised for the most vulnerable and most needy, then they're going to open it back up to everybody else. But that sort of thing will come back online as well.
And that's it. I mean, it's a shame we don't have Uber drivers down here in the southwest. But there's we can talk about how ethically Uber is or Ride or what are the other ones that we have down here. But the point is that there's a system there, we can use it.
That's right.
And we should give it a try. But look, I think we're probably over time, and just so that this doesn't run out and we just chat all day to ourselves, I think that it's great. I think that we're going to get a few more. As I say, I'd like to get Matthew Wright in here in terms of another industry expert. I think it's great as more information comes out. Mark, I think it'd be great to have you on again.
Yeah, definitely. Did ever get a chance to talk about the small business and the cash flow assistance from the federal government there. So that's I guess that's for another session that we do.
Go blast it out now, Matt. As a last piece of wisdom, what have you got?
Yeah, go for it.
As far as businesses that employ people, and they've got pay-as-you-go withholding, whether they do their activity statements monthly or quarterly. There's a lot of financial assistance where the government, they talk about cash flow assistance, but they're pretty much giving credits onto your tax debts for pay-as-you-go withholding for employers. Minimum amount $10,000 for the March quarter, and $10,000 for the June and September quarters. That's the minimum amount, up to $100,000 per business of pay-as-you-go withholding credits for businesses. So a lot of nuances and rules there and things, but a lot of it's going to be automatic when you lodge your next monthly activity statement, the March one or the March BAS. Also available, excuse me, for not-for-profit organisations as well, whether they're eligible for 2 lots of $10,000, so $20,000 pay-as-you-go credits for not-for-profit organisations, including charities and that sort of thing. So, chambers of commerces will be eligible for it and that sort of thing. But any not-for-profit organisation, they're trying to keep them going, and they know that they're the ones that step up a lot in these times of crises to help. And new charities starting up to react and help to this pandemic going on, and all the unforeseen things that happen going down the road. They're also going to be helped as well.
There's a quick question from Michelle. Can you answer that? Is it 10 grand pay-as-you-go credit even if there's $5 owed?
My understanding is yes. Yep, there's a minimum $10,000 now. If you've got employees and they were on prior to the announcement of 12th of March and you're withholding for those employees, then yes, they're talking about if you're due a refund, then they'll pay out the refunds within 14 days after the due date for lodgement.
So if I understand that, I've been withholding a lot of tax. I can basically maybe dip into that as cash flow reserve now, because I'm going to get the credit on the other end from the government stimulus packet.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. So what happens in these times of crisis as well is one of the first things that stops is people stop paying their monthly or quarterly statements amounts to the tax office. So they recognise that, so they're just going to put the credit straight onto your account, and if that puts you into a refund position, then they're going to pay that refund out.
That's great.
All right, what do you think, Matt and Mark? Should we wrap it up there? Let's get a count on that, and then I think for folks who may be watching this afterwards, to drop a comment in this afterwards, and we'll probably likely schedule another one of these calls as things will change.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
Thanks for organising that, Matt.
No worries. Thanks everyone. Thanks for joining
Matt.
us and chucking questions in the comments. And like Michael said, if anyone has anything else, just chuck it in the comments and we'll get to it as soon as we can. Cool.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Have a nice day, guys. Stay healthy.
Bye.